Every journey begins with a single step. For many, the first step is the greatest challenge. Yet for all, the obstacles, the doubt, and conviction teach us about ourselves. It's these moments in life, a test of our abilities, our mind, when we don't know, but we still proceed, driven by the unspoken, but ignited by the obsession that yields some of life's greatest lessons and rewards. Join me as we explore incredible stories of leaders forging industries, enterprises, and ultimately, themselves. I'm your host, Adam Geary, and welcome to Capital Class. Let's begin. Classmates, welcome to today's show. Today we're joined by a legend of learning in his own right. An entrepreneur that recognized the need to return to a core competency of education, fun. Of the fondest memories of education are often centered around the excitement of learning, laughter of peers, the field trip, the inspirational educator. As our world has changed and learning more individualized, and in many ways solo, a market need has emerged. Infuse education with entertainment to improve the content mastery and engagement. On today's episode of Capital Class, we're joined by Sandy Roskes, co-founder of Legends of Learning, and now VP of District Partnerships at Hooked on Phonics. Sandy, welcome to Capital Class.
Thank you, Adam. Great to be here.
You know, it's a unique story. The vision for gamification in education well ahead of the metaverse, well ahead of kind of where we are now, well ahead of even when crypto became, the kind of tokenization. You got to tell us, what were the early days like as you started to press into this market with Legends of Learning?
Yeah, it's a great question, Adam. I mean, the things that we saw coming together at the time was the confluence of a number of things. We were getting technology into the classroom in a pretty pervasive way. And we had, internet, Wi-Fi was becoming very pervasive. Those are obviously, must-haves for bringing game-based learning into classrooms. And then there were also some gaming technologies, things like Unity, that really democratized the production of games and game development. And all those things were sort of the building blocks, the required pieces for us to really, bring this vision to fruition. And, we saw those coming together and founded the company in 2016.
Are you yourself an engineer? I mean, what brought you to this market?
Yeah, so I have a civil engineering background, so I'm an engineer technically by training, but I'm not a software engineer. My co-founders and I are really mission-driven entrepreneurs. So, we identify new opportunities, disruptive opportunities in spaces that, really can bring some societal good to bear, and also are really good business opportunities. So that's sort of where our heads were at. We all grew up in the video game era. I'm from the 80s. I remember arcades and Atari and even Odyssey before Atari. And so we sort of grew up with games and really understood at a very core level how engaging they could be. And so, those were kinds of the personal impulses that led us to start the company.
I would imagine when you started your early vision, there were folks who got it immediately, but 2016 isn't that long ago, but in the education space, it feels like it's light years ago with how much has changed, devices, internet connectivity, the expectation of what learning looks like. I mean, it feels like the market is so far evolved from when you must have started.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I mean, I think, and obviously COVID happened in the intervening years, which, sort of added another layer to the use of technology in classrooms and outside of classrooms. When we first started, there was a bit of skepticism around, bringing video games into classrooms. We sort of knew that from the beginning that might be one of our that could be an objection or an obstacle to market entry. So before we founded the company, we actually partnered with Vanderbilt University to do a study to really assess the efficacy of game-based learning, the use of games, of sort of discrete curriculum-aligned games in the classroom, and it showed great results. And that research was actually published. And so when we came to market not only with our early platform, but also research that demonstrated the efficacy of games. And so we could point to that. That's not to say that there weren't skeptics then. There are today. I mean, obviously in education, there's lots of debates about almost everything. And certainly there's still debates about any pedagogy and certainly the use of games. But if you can bring something objective, something that's rigorous, we've since done some additional studies as well that have been published also that demonstrate efficacy, and that really is the key tool to winning people over.
That's a very nuanced approach for a startup company to have that sort of awareness in mind to go get a research-backed study. A lot of the companies that come to us, they have great ideas, incredible passion, but that's kind of where it ends, right? And for our market, that's too nascent. We serve as third-party validators, and we can't certainly walk in with something that's just that's all they have. That must have profoundly put you in a different box when you can walk in with a nationally recognized institution and the research behind it.
Yeah, no, it was extremely significant. I mean, honestly, we did that study right off the bat for a couple of reasons. Number one, we wanted to prove it to ourselves. As I said, we're mission-driven entrepreneurs, so we want to build businesses and build lasting businesses, but we want to make sure we can have an impact. And if we weren't convinced of it from the beginning, I don't know that we would have started the company. It was really when we saw the results of that study that we said, okay, we're on the right track. It helped us sort of refine some of our ideas. And that really was the impetus to really launch the company.
In the early days, what was a common misconception? That it was just play?
That's definitely one. I mean, everybody intuitively accepts that video games are engaging for almost everybody. Even, we talk to people about it. And they're like, well, I'm not really a gamer. And then, we say, oh, pull out your phone. Let me see some of the apps, and you'll see Candy Crush on there. Oh, do you like playing Wordle? These are games. People then realize, oh yeah, I do like games. They're very engaging. Once they sort of expand from thinking about just, Civilization or some famous game that they were not necessarily playing. Everybody plays some sort of game. So yeah, it's intuitively obvious to people that games are engaging. The question is, can you learn from it? I think the other, and so that's where our studies, the efficacy, and really being willing to try it out in districts, have them see for themselves what the results were going to be. Those are the kinds of things that got us over that hump. I think the other, maybe not necessarily misconception, but confusion, is between gamification and game-based learning. Gamification is really about rewarding people, kids in this case, for completing some task successfully or engaging in some behavior that we want. We offer a reward, and that's great, and we have plenty of that on our platform. But the crux, the sort of the core content that we have on there are actual video games that instruct, that the instructional material is embedded within the game. The game is the lesson, as opposed to simply rewarding you after the fact for doing the lesson. So I think that's another distinguishing factor of Legends of Learning. And it's very, very meaningful. I think when people understand that, when they see, oh, it's not just that we're doing a digital worksheet and providing a reward. These are actual games that kids are engaged in as they're learning. And that's where the real power is.
Because I think that's part of the market differentiator. Even as crypto started gaining traction in the gaming education space, it was, I guess, to use your definition, it was for gamification. It was, they would do something and receive a monetary award for it. You've actually built a game-based platform that infuses education.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, on the Legends platform, there's thousands of games that cover, that take, 5 to 15 minutes to play, and they cover a very discrete topic. It might be about photosynthesis or about, adding fractions or things like that. They're very, very narrow topics. But they actually provide instruction within the game itself. And so kids are engaged in the lesson in a way that it's very hard to compete with. It's very hard to offer a student or an adult in many cases something that's more engaging than a video game.
When you think about kind of the evolution of the market, right? Like I think of iReady, right? And just having spent so many years with that company, my first time on an iReady platform, we were doing mathematics, but it was, and I don't know, it was cats. It was like counting cats. It was to kind of show us how the system worked. And their challenge at the time was having people take them seriously, right? That was learning, which you experienced, but also there were students that were power users that wanted to be on the platform, and they would go home and say, yeah, well, how was school? They're like, I just sat on a computer all day. And so mom and dad were not happy. Right. But in the same lens, were they learning, and that kind of gets lost, right? It's like, it's almost a delicate balance.
Yeah, it is. I think, I and everybody that I've worked with at both Legends and Hooked do not believe in screen time all the time or game-based learning all the time. It's not the only medium. And in both of those companies, we offer and recommend offline materials to that could even form the core of the lesson. And actually the game-based learning piece is, just one aspect of a lesson. So, I'm a big believer that, there's, kids learn, first of all, kids learn in different modes. Obviously different kids have different types of, different types of learning, kinesthetic learning, visual learning. Everybody, kind of has different types of learning that they are most successful with, but everybody also needs different modes to learn. And so there always needs to be a hands-on piece. There always needs to be, even pencil and paper. There just needs to be non-screen time, most of the time, frankly, you should be doing something other than games. That's why, Legends of Learning, the games are typically 5 to 15 minutes long. They might serve as, an exit ticket, or an extension activity or something like that. It's not online all the time. Nobody here is advocating that.
Do you find your teachers are using it in a gamification model, right? You finish your lesson and you do some Legends, or are they embedding it? I mean, what's the normal structure?
Very flexible. So that's a good example. An extension activity. It could also be for remediation after class. Something to you need extra practice. Some use these platforms for tier 1 instruction. It really forms a core part of the lesson. Some use it for homework. Extra practice at home. These are the ideas to build things that are sort of discrete and can be, slotted in and utilized in a variety of different ways. And the way you do that is you offer other materials around around your curricular content that helps teachers learn, okay, how do I integrate this into a lesson? Give me other lesson ideas. And by making it really easy to use, to make it, it's really important that, if you want teachers in the classroom or out of the classroom to adopt a digital product, it really has to be easy to implement, and easy to use in different ways. And those are things that, we put a lot of thought into.
When you think about it now, and if you can share, how many students would you say are like daily users of Legends?
I mean, we don't really publish those numbers, but lots and lots and lots. I mean,
Thousands.
Legends touches millions.
Millions.
Legends has touched millions of kids. Yeah.
In the early days, you probably had 100.
Yeah, I remember getting the first, even 50 teachers to use the platform back in the early 2017. Yeah. Legends of Learning launched sort of did its public launch at um, NSTA in 2017, the National Science Teachers Association conference, because the first suite that Legends launched with was actually middle school science way back when. And nobody had ever heard of Legends of Learning at that time. You can still find videos of that event, though. We, Legends gave away capes and at the booth, and did a flash mob, and all sorts of things. The whole idea, it sounds attention grabbing, but and it was, but the idea was to live and breathe engagement, not just to have the games engage students, but for everybody to, the sort of entire community to be engaged with Legends of Learning. So, and to have, teachers really excited about it. And that, everything that Legends of Learning does even today is really about engaging the entire community in game-based learning.
Now, you left a paying job to start this business, correct?
Yeah, of course.
Right. I know. I mean, like, you leave a job, you're starting a product in an industry that kind of exists, right? Again, it's hard to believe it, but 7 years ago, this was an outlier industry, right? This was not commonplace. Those are those kind of foundational moments, the idea to enterprise moments that we talk a lot about on the show. When you think back, like, just the progress made, how do you measure it? How do you, like, what when you take inventory of how far you've come?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main way you measure it is through impacts, right? So we actually, and we can see this, you could see results both on the platform and in test results from districts, that use these products, and that's really the way you measure it. So it's the number of people that you touch, sort of times the impact that you have, and that's really how you measure success.
And on a personal level?
Yeah, I mean, personally, it's like seeing, building something from scratch is, really, the most fulfilling things that there is, really, starting with an idea, sort of building that idea out, developing, an MVP, minimum viable product, sort of testing it, really trying to identify product market fit, tweaking it, adjusting it, figuring out, okay, you need this extra content or these features, or, you need to position it differently or what have you to really get that product market fit, and then take it to market and see the impact. I mean, that's really what's fulfilling about being an entrepreneur. I mean, that's the case in any industry. I mean, I've, started businesses in, 3 or 4 different industries. Education is great because you can really see, again, the impact on students, on the next generation. That's, I have kids myself, so it's a very fulfilling industry to work in. But that process of, really bringing something to life, I mean, I think that's what motivates entrepreneurs. Is definitely what motivates me. Yeah, there's nothing better than seeing how it impacts the world and your user base. It's the best feeling.
You mentioned kind of this birthing of an idea into what now serves millions of kids. And the gap between that moment and the initiation is doubt, right? Concerns, questions, just kind of this chasm of the unknown. And then you eventually move to a place where it's time for you to move on. Like, walk me through that process. I mean, I don't know that I don't even know when that day will come, how hard that may be for something that I can empathize with, understand. It becomes a part of you, right? The business is somewhat you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that every startup, certainly successful startups, face, sort of succession planning, and how you recognize when it's time to move on or to hand things over. I mean, what I really enjoy is that starting up piece, that creating from scratch, and really entering a market with a new product. That's what sort of always really excites me. Legends, I had a variety of different roles, but the core one was really building up the sales and support teams and bringing, sort of bringing it into the market and supporting it. And once we got to a certain sort of scale, it just felt like it was a good time to, really hand that over to, somebody that could really take it forward to the next level and, really try to start the next thing, which, was really what I was put on this planet to do.
I think it's powerful to know what you like and what you just kind of tolerate. I see a lot of founders that they enjoy the process that you just described, and their businesses become recognizable, financially solvent. They grow and they continue on in the growth of the business, but their learning and their growth almost has an inversion point where it's not as fun. They're not learning as much, but they're stuck. I just think it's incredibly bold to know when it's time to go.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think it can be really hard for founders to understand that. I think that, you really have to be in touch with yourself and what it is that you really enjoy and what where you really add the most value. I think, life is short. So like you want to really decide, okay, am I doing every day what it is that I want to be doing? And if not, then, it is a difficult and gut wrenching process to sort of come to terms with that and then to take action, and in this case, bring on, the best people that can take it forward, making sure it's successful. I'm still very invested in it. So, you really, really want it to succeed. And, but yeah, I think it's true. I think, founder succession in every industry is a key challenge. That entrepreneurs, investors, board members really need to, think about it and plan for very well.
I think the other part of it that is really important is what you mentioned, this kind of finality of time, right? That we all have we're kind of trading time for something. And I think a lot of founders, their business becomes their persona, right? Their business is everything. They introduce themselves, right? I'm such and such, and I work at this business, or I founded this business, or I built this business. And we talk a lot about energy as an asset, right? We're kind of, how do you manage that energy? And I think I'd ask you, like, how do you recharge? Like, you leave a business to go work at another business. You didn't leave a business to go sit on the beach. Like, obviously this excites you.
Yeah. Well, I see my identity as a business builder, right? So, and not necessarily a particular business, right? Like, so I've, both co-founded and helped start or joined at an early stage, companies, or spun out new businesses from within a company. And that's really the stage that I'm very good at and that, where I can really add value. And so, that's how I see my identity as opposed to tied to a particular business. It's not that I'm not loyal to them, but obviously I still stay very close with all the businesses that I've, helped start and then, moved on to. And I'm usually, pretty explicit with people. Here's really where I can, add the most and really be very cognizant of understanding, okay, we're trying to go, building a startup is like going up a staircase, right? You got to go, you want to get to the top of the staircase, but you get to the top of the staircase by going up one stair after another. Okay. It's milestones that you're trying to hit. And if you look out long and some people want to take it all the way to the top. It's hard to dissociate Jeff Bezos from Amazon, right? For example.
Right.
But in most cases, there are different people that really excel at different parts of that staircase. And I think the powerful thing is to really deploy people and deploy yourself in those parts of that staircase where you are the most effective and where you're happiest. And I think it's very different for different people. And kind of getting in touch with that is is a very helpful thing to do.
I also think about the end, not in a morbid way, but like what does a business have to become? Like, does it have to become a unicorn? Right? Does it have to become the market leader? And if the answer is no, then how do you stay motivated, right? How do you find that kind of drive that wakes you up in the morning to climb that mountain, to carry, go up those stairs? And I think it's just it's an interesting dynamic of founders where I will meet founders. I feel this sometimes, like, how big do we get? Right? I mean, bigger isn't necessarily always better. It's certainly a lot more complicated. I can attest to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think to start a business, you want it to have an impact on the market, and you want it to have, you do want it to become a big, substantial player in whatever space that you're in. I mean, I do think that is an important goal. I think, I do think there can be a question of like, okay, growth at what cost, right? Like, I mean, I think
Yeah.
there, some companies, there are instances where, you know, and this could lead to M&A or what have you, or some sort of transaction where it's like, oh, okay, like this is the value of this business. This is where it adds, the most value, and it can contribute more to the industry or whatever mission it's trying to address in combination with some other company, for example. I think that's a perfectly valid outcome. But I think, going in, you want to build something that can be, big and impactful. Obviously, if you're raising money from investors, it's critical that, they obviously are going to want to see that opportunity. And so, there's no question that these businesses are launched in order to become, substantial and be rewarding from an equity standpoint. But that's not the only way you measure a mission-driven business. It's really, who are, you're really impacting people. Are you making a difference, in whichever problem that you're trying to solve? I mean, I think, it's sort of those two goals side by side is really what makes a successful mission-driven business.
And do you feel like you've achieved those goals with Legends, and then that gives you the comfort to go forward to something new?
Yeah, I mean, it's achieving it, right? Like, so, I mean,
Sure.
it's, the story of Legends is still it's going to continue to grow and blossom. So yeah, I mean, it's already had a very measurable impact on millions of students, but, it's going to keep going, right? So I try to set things up, in a position where, you can bring on other people and, hand it off to, and really trust that they're going to take it forward to the next stage of growth and of impact. I think you need to build things that way, right? Like it's important to build businesses in such a way that they are, obviously the founders and all the employees impact it, but you need to build it in such a way that it's not dependent on those individuals long term or forever. You see this all the time. I'm sure you've encountered businesses like that where, really some cases, really they fail after people leave. And like, it's important not to build it that way. I think, Legends of Learning is a great example. It has a very strong foundation. Different key team members have changed over time. The mission stayed the same. The core principles have always stayed the same. And that's what builds, that's what creates a strong, lasting business when you can, start to replace key people and have it go forward, have it continue in its mission. That's a sign of success. That's how I view it.
So you leave a successful chapter to turn anew at a legacy business in Hooked on Phonics. Right? I couldn't think of, and I wouldn't feel like I'm out on a limb to say that it was probably the first that I can remember supplemental instruction tool that moms and dads could purchase for their kids, for them to do instruction at home, long before a time when personalized instruction was common, when education systems were very much geared towards the general, which was appropriate at the time. Is there a mission there for you? I mean, what brings you back?
Yeah, so I mean, Hooked on Phonics is a great company. Everybody, has a tremendous name recognition. Throughout the United States, almost everybody is, sort of Hooked on Phonics. So many people that we encounter, as adults, used it as kids. And Yeah, I mean, it's the idea. We started working on this, really about a year ago, to really kind of conceptualize with Hooked on Phonics, how to really bring it into classrooms. And the timing is good there because there's the movement of science of reading has really become extremely pervasive and now lasting within the K-12 world in the United States. So it's very consistent with what Hooked on Phonics has been doing, science of reading, phonics instruction for decades. And
Yeah.
so it was kind of a situation where the K-12 world was moving towards Hooked on Phonics in that direction. So it seemed like a very good time to sort of take the core material that has been used in millions of households and really wrap it around an experience, sort of an educator experience, to wrap it in that, to enable it to be used in classrooms so that people can so that it's not just a parent utilizing with their one or several kids and being able to track that, being able to for a teacher to be able to track dozens of kids and really see progress and all the things that you really need to do in a classroom to make it successful. But it utilizes the same basic methodology that has been proven through decades of research to be effective. It's not the only thing you do. Like as with Legends of Learning, nobody's saying that you sort of do this do this program all day every day. But as a component, this type of systematic instruction in teaching kids to read is highly successful. Obviously, there's a big issue in this country. People have read all the news about learning loss during COVID and reading scores and all those things. So it's certainly one of the very biggest challenges in K-12 today is really teaching young elementary students to read. And so it's really exciting to try to take help take this home-based product and bring it into classrooms.
It's, I think, one of the most unique components of an education market, whereas it's always cyclical. In the STEM, right? And then it became STEAM. And everyone thought, oh, well, STEAM, this is this new concept. Like STEAM is just what everyone was teaching beforehand. Right now, they're just giving it an acronym. Science of reading, when I first heard it, I was like, science of reading? What is science of reading? It's phonetical reasoning, right? Learning through sounding out words, and there's other components to it. It was like, Hooked on Phonics? And it's just the market kind of finds ways to recycle itself and improve itself. Unlike no one's going back to the original IBM computers. That market seems to only move in one direction. So it feels like you're right back at the groundbreaking level here, kind of doing what it seems like you're always doing, building.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, just to finish the point of science of reading, not to dive too deeply in that, but it's really a body of research. That's really what it denotes. And the point is that that there is an enormous amount of research and data developed over decades that show that systematic instruction in combination, systematic instruction and learning to read in combination with other things that promote, the joy of reading and expose kids to different content and, to get out of that sort of very technical, systematic instruction. It's that combination that's really effective. I think you're right. I mean, I think in some ways the K-12 community did get away from it in some ways, not entirely, but, to a significant extent over the last, 20 years or so. And, but that research was always there, and it's continued to, the body of research has continued to build to the point where, it became, sort of an imperative to really, formally bring it back and make it, in the classroom to sort of formalize it as a key instructional tool in early education.
Sandy, incredible episode. We get all of our guests out on what we call the fast four, kind of rapid response, And the first thing that comes to mind. You ready?
Okay, let's do it.
As an entrepreneur, what trends are emerging that interest you?
I mean, I think in general, the leveraging of technology to solve big societal problems is incredibly interesting. So, like, there's demographic shifts that are occurring today in the U.S. and worldwide population. I mean, I think that's going to bring enormous challenges and opportunities to really innovate in areas that have not had a lot of innovation. Like education is a great example of that over the last 10 years. Enormous impact on innovation. But I think there's other industries also that are ripe for that kind of innovation, particularly with demographic trends.
One place in the world everyone needs to visit.
Israel. If you want a combination of incredible history, archaeology, entertainment, culture, music, food, and a great launching off point to other places in the Mediterranean, go visit Israel.
It's a great share. That's the first for the series. Greatest area of growth for you in the coming year?
Really, it's back to early launch. So go to market. So the biggest thing I'm trying to do right now is that, the things we talked about earlier, product market fit, early go to market, really prove that out.
What are you listening to? What do you fill your free time with, if such a thing exists?
It's funny. As I was starting, as I was kind of clearing my head, I went back to a classic, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. I know it's
Wow.
I know it's funny to think about, but read it and heard it, numerous times in my life, but I just thought it was like a good time to sort of try that again and really, some of those key lessons, beginning with the end in mind, I think is really important when you're, starting something new and really taking something, new to market. And so, that was just really topical for me right now.
Sandy, thank you for sharing a powerful story. We wish you incredible luck on your next venture and appreciate you joining the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Adam. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining today's episode of Capital Class. If you're interested in joining our next discussion, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast platforms. Capital Class is a venture with the Strategist Podcast Network. To view the entire lineup of shows, visit strategistgroup.com. I'm Adam Geary. Class is closed.